everybody for being here. Much appreciated. Again, a reminder, please mute your microphone until we get into the Q&A perspective. We've got a couple exciting announcements and presentations today. And excited to be here. What we're going to be doing is, again, communicating with you all and sharing updates on the cannabis regulatory framework from the state's perspective, gather perspectives from the municipal perspective as well, answer some questions. David's going to go over some municipal resources, videos, updates on our programs, and then it'll turn over, very exciting, to Michigan Cannabis Industry Association Executive Director Robin Schneider. We felt there was time to bring in an association to speak directly with the municipalities, let Robin Schneider's group talk to the municipalities, answer questions back and forth. But it was a great time to bring in the association, open up dialogue and conversation. And they're the largest cannabis industry association in the state of Michigan. So I feel this is a great move forward, and perhaps we'll bring in licensees for the next stakeholder meeting. So without further ado, I'll turn it back over to David, go over some resources as reminders, and then we'll get started, turn it back over to Robin. So David, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Brian. So I'm going to share my screen here. I've got a few resources on our website that I'd like to just make sure that everybody is aware of. And let's see, I can get a thumbs up that my screen is showing just fine from someone. All right, I see it. Sounds good. So this here, I wanted to, all right, we've got some folks who are still unmuted.
The green light's not even on.
Let's figure that out before I get moving here. Thanks. I think we're good now. So we have a few municipal resources on our website that I think are valuable for municipal officials and those who help municipal officials kind of work their way through this space. The first thing that I would like to point everyone to here is if you go to our main page and you go under resources and you click here to video library, we've got quite a few, we got quite a large amount of videos that folks can use. The one that I'm going to spend some time on today is under municipality resources, but I did want everyone to see that we do have a lot of CRA education sessions as well. We've had 2 this year already. In 2023, we have quite a few here. These are mostly for licensees, but I thought it would be valuable to let everyone here on this call know that this exists all the way back to 2020. All of the education sessions that we've done are here for your perusal. If there's a topic that is interesting to you, you can find it here. And if there's a topic that you're interested in, but we have not yet done an education session on it, please reach out and recommend that to us, and we will get that on our list. We also have licensing and enforcement public videos here. Over the last couple of years, we've done many updates from our enforcement staff, going from best practices to how disciplinary action works and all of these different things as well. So that's here. We do put our public meeting videos shortly after they happen. They go up here on our website. So you can go back through and watch any of the public meetings if you happen to miss those. And then also down here at the bottom, we do have some MDARD pesticide videos too. We did a series with them over the last couple of years about worker protection and how the pesticides work in the cannabis space. So those are all good places to check out if that is interesting to you. But now for this video here, the CRA Municipal Marijuana Education, this is something we did back in 2022, and you'll see that it's an hour and 58 minutes long, and it does not have much in the way of information from the CRA, but rather it's got some information from some folks who we brought on, who are lawyers, who are municipal officials, to talk through some of the difficulties and some of the things that municipal officials should know. I'm just going to play a quick little segment here for you real quick.
Yeah, I think we're missing audio.
Oh, no audio?
That's correct. Yeah, I think you have to toggle audio as a function.
Gotcha. All right. Well, just know that he's saying some really good stuff. And it's valuable because if you notice, I'll skip through here a little bit, but we have, different lawyers. We have different folks who are knowledgeable in the space. Even some folks from this from the city of Grand Rapids, from Lansing. We have some planners, and we have some folks who have done work in different spaces throughout. And so I won't bore you with more video with no sound, but just know that the 2 hours is jam-packed full of information that you might find valuable. And again, I will drop that link in the chat here so that you can find it easy. Let me do that before I move on. And if you have any questions about anything there, just let us know. You'll notice when you first click that video to watch it, the first 30 seconds or so is a statement from Brian. So don't worry that it's not progressing. You just read that statement, and then it'll move right into the video. So that is a helpful resource for municipalities. Also, wanted to take you to our laws, rules, and other resources page. If you scroll down here under other resources, you'll find the municipal guide. And if you click on the municipal guide, it'll open up in a new window, PDF. And our licensing team has spent a lot of time updating this over the years to make it so that it is at its most up-to-date, and it's always current, within reason, of course. But if you scroll through this, you'll see our latest edition was a year ago, and the municipal guide talks through many different questions that municipalities might have, whether that be under the Medical Facility Licensing Act. What provisions are relevant to municipalities? Does a municipal ordinance have to opt in or opt out? Can the municipality charge a fee? What are the touch points between the CRA and municipalities during the process? And then it gets into the adult use establishment licensing questions, talks about what provisions in the MRTMA are relevant to municipalities, talks about the ordinances, how those work. Can the municipality charge an application fee? How does the licensing process work? All of that is spelled out in this document as well. When you get down here towards page 20 or 21, you'll get into the enforcement questions. When does the CRA inspect? What's included in that inspection? How does the Bureau of Fire Services, how's that work in conjunction with the CRA? What role do municipalities play in the inspection process? So forth and so on. So, as you work your way through this document, if you have questions, this includes links to the various parts of the law that it's pulling and quoting from. It includes any information that you might need in regards to how you would work with us and our agency throughout the licensing process. While we can't give you legal advice as to how to set up your ordinances and those different types of things, we're happy to answer questions in regards to how we interact with municipalities throughout the licensing process, throughout the renewal application process, and so forth and so on. So that's a very good resource. And again, you can find that under our laws, rules, and other resources page. And that page is easily accessible from our main page right here, laws, rules, and other resources. That'll take you right to it. So that is good information for you, I hope. And also, I wanted to make you all aware of a few important updates that we've made over the last couple months since the last time we met as a municipal summit. First of all, the Social Equity Grant Program is a new grant program that we have put out, and it is available to entities that have that are basically they have to be licensed through the CRA, and they have to be have majority ownership over 50% from our Social Equity Program participants, and they have to have participated in our All-Star program. If they meet those three criteria, then they will be awarded some of the grant funds. The legislature set aside $1 million this year, and we are dividing that equally amongst all of the applicants who meet the criteria. And if the business does meet that criteria and does get the grant monies, they will be able to spend that on employee education or some of their business needs, or they may use that money to invest in the community in which they're located. So we're pretty excited about this social equity grant program. We did, the deadline did close about 10 days ago, and we're working through the last couple notices of deficiency before we're able to move forward and let each of the grantees know, how much in grant funds that they will be receiving this year. Of course, there is a process for them letting us know, how they spent the money and, clarifying all of that. That'll be done, throughout this year, all the way through the end of the fiscal year. So that's the social equity grant program. Also, on our main page here, you can see the Veteran Recognition Program and Task Force 1620. Those are our veteran resources that we've recently launched. We launched those back near Veterans Day in November. And if you click on the Task Force 1620, you'll see that this is a program in which the licensees across the state who have a cannabis, a veteran access program that offers cannabis to veterans at 75 to 100% discount are eligible to participate in this program. We don't set the rules for what those veteran access programs look like. We just make sure that they have a few minimum things that they offer. And so when we vet those folks, we are able to put them up here on our website. And we have already had a couple who have given their information. And if you click through on these links, you'll see their plan and how they give relief to veterans through cannabis. And so all that information is on our website as well. And let's see here. Here's Indigro's plan. You can read through that at your leisure if you like, but this is on our website under the Task Force 1620 page. One other veterans recognition program that we have is the VRP, and that is to recognize those cannabis businesses who are owned by veterans of our armed
you mean
forces.
because get rid of them?
So if you don't necessarily have to have the veteran access program available, but if you are just owned by a majority owner of your business as a veteran, then you can be recognized in our program here. And at this point, we've got a handful of folks who've done that, and you can see them here on our website as well. So I will stop sharing my screen now, and I saw a couple of questions in the chat, at least one. Do you foresee any changes in the way the CRA shares information with local municipalities? Let's get to that in the Q&A part at the end, and we'll pull that one through with all of our folks that are here from the CRA to answer the questions. Any questions on the topics that I shared here on the video or the municipal guide or any of the new programs that we've put forward? If you do have any, feel free to raise your hand. Okay. All right. Let's see. I saw lots of folks coming in and going. Is Robin Schneider on the call?
Hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Great. I don't know, is my camera working now or?
No camera.
Oh, no camera. Okay. Sorry, I tried. Okay, well, thank you. The Michigan Cannabis Industry Association was founded in January of 2019, and we were formed to advocate for state licensed cannabis businesses. We are modeled exactly the same as any other traditional trade association. So essentially we lobby on behalf of the industry and what our members ask us to do. Our membership includes any state licensed cannabis company or any ancillary business that transparently services the industry. So we say transparently services because in the beginning in 2019, we had a lot of companies approach us and say, we want to do business with your members, but we don't want anyone to know that we're doing business with cannabis companies. And we said, well, we don't really like the way that sounds. So if you're willing to, come out and say that you're doing business with cannabis, we'll support that. And so we thought that businesses being transparent and their activity with us was important. So we're structured with 3 entities. We're a 501c6. We also have our finance corporation and the MICIA state PAC. The state PAC is a great way for us to support candidates who are pro-cannabis and pro-cannabis industry. Also gets us, helps us, build relationships politically and all of that. We're often contacted by candidates that want to, gain our support, but also want to make it known that they are pro-cannabis. We have a referral program for our members. We like to leverage our buying power by creating discount programs, which include insurance discounts, packaging discounts, IT support, and more. We have 4 networking events that we host for our members every year to get them together. We typically invite lawmakers and the CRA to attend those events. It helps them to interact with our members. And we focus primarily on state and federal advocacy. We do not directly lobby on local ordinances. Typically, our members are all vying for the same number of licenses. So those local opt-ins quickly become a conflict situation for us. We are, however, always happy to provide local governments with factual information about our program as you're working to opt in. As far as how many facilities and where they should be located and all of the zoning issues, we always stay very neutral on that due to the conflicts between our members. How we decide our legislative policy. Over the last 5 years, we've grown to about 400 members. So that is a lot of work that we have to put in as far as structure and fairness. So we are very transparent in how we develop our legislative and regulatory policy with our members. And we do that by hosting 2 caucus meetings a year where members essentially fill out surveys about what their needs are. From there, those survey results go to committee meetings. So we have multiple committees that our members serve in. Those committees review the initiatives that our members are interested in, and then they vote. And then the results from that go to our 15-member board of directors for an affirming board vote. So by the time we, decide what our policies are that we're lobbying for. One minute, please.
We don't have dogs, right?
Sorry about that.
No worries, right? Not a problem.
I have a 8-week-old husky here that's a little.
Nice.
Yeah. So, okay, so we have, by the time we come up with our policy, we've had all of our members have weighed in, and there's that 15-member affirming vote, and that's how we make sure we do everything fair. We come up with legislative agendas. So our 23/24 agenda, I will share that with you a bit. Ending cannabis testing for state workers was one of the top things on our list for 23. That went quite well. We had approached a senator and asked him to introduce legislation, and he said, I think that the commission can do that on their own. And they ended up holding a hearing and ending required cannabis testing for state workers on their own. So that was fantastic. Except for workers who I think do more construction or maybe carry firearms, but the large majority of them are now able to work for government and be patients or recreational users. Reducing the age of employment for recreational facilities. The age was 18 for medical facilities, and it went to 21 for adult use. We found that people who were working in medical facilities, once those facilities became recreational, they essentially had to end their employment, which was something we did not foresee. And so, hopeful that the legislature will tackle that still this year. Also, we've had a lot of talk about temporarily pausing the issuance of new grow licenses. our program is very similar to that as the state of Oregon's, very free market, which is something that I personally love about our industry, because it's created an opportunity for a lot of individuals to, get involved in business opportunities, unlike other states that are a little more set up with a monopoly. The challenge there is that with unlimited licenses, the revenue and the price per pound of product has quickly plummeted. So in Oregon, they actually capped licensing, put a moratorium down on all new licenses. And in an effort to stabilize our industry, our members are interested in a pause on those grow licenses to hopefully help stabilize our market a bit. I did just speak with some folks out in Oregon and who mentioned they are again renewing that moratorium. So looking to other states like ours is something that we often do to figure out how we can best advocate for our members. We're also interested in merging the acts. So we have two separate programs, one for medical and one for adult use, which means our members are applying for 2 licenses each year and renewing 2 licenses each year. And we think that the program could just run a little smoother if it was all under 1 license. We're also committed to opposing any legislation that is harmful to our industry or to patients and their caregivers. We've seen some kind of, unusual legislation introduced over the years and, tend to be very protective. Our members tend to be very protective over the patients and their caregivers. We're supporting some work on ethics reforms. You may recall that we had, unfortunately, some bad publicity on our industry due to some, bribery, questionable campaign contributions, things like that. And that's something I want to note that is not just our industry. That kind of thing happens in every industry. And so the lawmakers are really taking a look at, some campaign finance reform and ethics. And we've had a number of meetings saying, hey, this really impacted the start of our program. And our members are interested in supporting any reforms that, can improve transparency, not just for our industry, but other new markets coming forward in the future. And we just think that's really important. Supporting safe banking. I'm a little bit jaded on this one. So in 2019, we passed a resolution through the House of Representatives in support of safe banking, calling on Congress to, support safe banking. Unfortunately, that we took that resolution and we just got terrible feedback out there. We had state reps in Michigan and representing us in Congress that were extremely anti-cannabis. And, every year since then, the national groups say, this is our year to get it done. And I'm always the one that's like, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. And that's just because I've been out there myself and I've seen, what little support there was. And with that being said, we're a little more focused on rescheduling and descheduling. Being that it's an election year, we feel like this is a great time to put forward a big push, for rescheduling or descheduling. This is so important because our cannabis businesses are not as profitable as a lot of people think that they are. Because of that 280E tax liability, if we could reschedule or deschedule cannabis, it would make our members' businesses profitable almost overnight. So, that is a high priority this year for us as we're being approached by campaigns saying, hey, if you want to win our support from the cannabis community, now is the time to, to address that issue before the election. So, perfect time for us to work on that. We're also sending out our election scorecards. That's something that we do with every major election, and they will be published before the election and used as a guide for the industry to help push support for cannabis candidates that are pro-cannabis and pro-cannabis industry. We'll be, obviously pushing those out prior to the election, but also doing a a media roundtable with that as well. We do have also a regulatory agenda for 23-24. Our members strongly support the agency and enforcement against imported illegal products into licensed facilities, and any enforcement on violations that are a danger to public health and safety. We wanted to increase the ability to transfer product between recreational and medical facilities. The agency addressed that early on last year. Supporting the department by lobbying in support of funding for a state testing lab. That's something that's been done. I think there might be a little more work to do on that, but I think if you look at other mature markets, they tend to have state-run testing labs, and we think it's important that our department has that tool to use here as well. So we are all in on supporting that. And then monitoring the new set of administrative rules coming out and looking to support positive outcomes for our members, specifically looking for ways to cut operational costs as those rules come out. And our members are really supportive of a proposal that would allow the department to deny renewal of licenses for facilities who have pending civil judgments for non-payment. This is a really hot topic right now. We have seen, a pretty serious issue of non-payment throughout our industry. Essentially, retail facilities taking orders and just not paying for them. I have a member who, has won a judgment of like $1 million against 2 companies. And, when you think about what a loss of $1 million does to a company, and really what it does is it leads to, layoff of employees and less benefits and all of that. And so it's really harmful to our industry all the way down the line. We do view those situations as theft, and, are hopeful that the state will be able to do a little more to protect our producers from those bad actors who just kind of run through and take product and sell it and never pay for it. So those are our regulatory issues we're working on right now. As far as work with local governments, we have done a couple of really neat programs. We worked with the city of Detroit, did a public-private partnership called the MICIA Detroit Homegrown Fund. And as the city was working to set up their program, they found that they had a lot of needs for education and grants. And there was a banking issue because a lot of the nonprofits that they could have partnered with did not have cannabis compliant banking like we did. So we were approached by the city, and we were already working with Dart Bank for our own accounts, and the Dart Bank agreed to open a fund for the city of Detroit and not charge us any banking fees. So that was very thoughtful of them. And our members essentially donated money into that fund voluntarily. And we funded the entire 2-year Homegrown Detroit educational program. So that was something that our members felt really good about, to be able to be a part of the solution. And then we gave out a little over $100,000 in grants to the Detroit Legacy applicants. And 100% of those proceeds went back to the Detroit program. We as an association did not charge any administrative fees for that, and we felt really good that we were in a position to just be able to lend a hand and create some good outcomes. And we're very pro social equity organization. Our board members are very pro social equity, so that was something that we felt the industry needed to step up and help with. We've also worked to provide handicap accessible playground equipment to another municipality. So community development programs, we find that in the law, the licensees are not allowed to contribute to projects that include children, but our association is allowed to buy playground equipment. So we stepped in and helped out with the project there. So always interested in helping with community development in any way that we can. I'll add a little bit about how we got here. My background was working on political campaigns. And then I was hired to work on a local ordinance before we had any laws licensing cannabis businesses. We managed to get an ordinance passed in the city of Lansing that gave local permits to and grandfathered in all 48 businesses. 2 weeks later, the McQueen decision came down from the Supreme Court ruling that those businesses were illegal. So quick win and quick loss as well. So we swiftly found a bill sponsor and introduced the Michigan Medical Marijuana Licensing Facilities Act. That took us 6 years to get that legislation through the Michigan legislature. And once that bill was signed into law, I was hired to be the finance director of the ballot initiative that legalized Michigan. So going back to my roots on working on a campaign. 2 months after we won our ballot initiative to legalize Michigan, we launched our trade association. So this industry has been 15 years in the making for me, and I am very passionate about the work that we've done. So the main request that came from local governments when we were working on the MMFLA was to go with a local control model. So when we drafted the adult use law, we kept that local control model in there, giving the local governments the ability to either opt in or opt out. And we thought that was important to honor that agreement that we made with them when we were working on the MMFLA. With that said, I'm wondering, I really want to hear from the municipalities, if there's anything more that could be changed or clarified in the law that would help all of you as you're working to opt in. I know there's been a lot of lawsuits, and that is certainly not something that we intended. And other than that, I'm happy to take any other questions you may have.
Thanks, Robin. Really appreciate your time this morning. And before we go to the questions, and I do want everyone to kind of realize that you have a pretty important resource here in front of you that you can ask Robin about. She can answer a lot of questions that us at the agency can't, and that's just being frank. She's got the pulse of the industry, and she can give you some, she can point you in directions that maybe the CRA can't. So she's a good resource. Get your questions ready. And we've got some time here with her to answer those. But before we get into that, Robin, could you just talk a little bit about how folks can reach out to you and contact your organization after this meeting if they need to or want to do so?
Sure. The easiest way to get a hold of me would be to email me at info@micia.org. You can also go to our website, which is www.micia.org. We have a lot of great information on our website as well.
All right, great. I see, let me see if I can see who's got their hand up. Wow, figure that out later. But in the meantime, whoever had it up can, okay, there we go. Al, I see you. Go ahead and ask your question.
You got a question?
Wait, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Al Romero, City of Grand Rapids, Cannabis Manager here. I do have a question for Robin. Good morning, Robin. So in your presentation, you mentioned that there is a reality in the cannabis industry that they're not making as much money. I think speaking from a municipal government standpoint and in the many conversations I have had with other communities in Michigan, it almost feels like we perhaps need a more detailed resources. So like what exactly that means in terms of like, we just got information from the industry that almost like there were like $3 billion in sales, and we're trying to bridge that with the understanding that the industry is claiming that they're not making as much money. I do understand this is an industry specific issue, but as we are having discussions with our community residents asking, are there going to be cannabis locations in town, or why are there so many lawsuits, with very strong legal teams sometimes assisting those efforts in our communities, when then there's ultimately very little money to be made. So are there any efforts or thoughts about, in order to support this claim that cannabis industry doesn't make much money, to prepare perhaps any visuals or charts or breakdowns of what that actually means for this industry?
Certainly. So I'm glad you brought that up. I actually have been working on another project, and to the point of, everyone saying, hey, we're going broke and we're not profiting. You see receiverships going on in the news and acquisitions of businesses that have failed. And I get calls every single day from my members saying, we are desperate, we want to sell. And so I reached out to my CPAs and I asked them to put together a white paper about this issue, because nobody knows better than the CPAs who do the annual financial reports and the bookkeeping for the businesses, where those pain points are. Of course, I got a lot of feedback that it's the 280E, cost of regulations. There was the initial what we call the green tax, where a municipality opted in, and those properties skyrocketed, and so they way overpaid for the property that they're on. Also scenarios where people did REIT deals where another company essentially owns your profit and owns your property, and then over the years you're having to pay more and more back to that investor, having too many investors when they set up their businesses, not understanding that this was a complete free market state and that the margins were going to be much slimmer, that we're not having $500 ounces, we're having $90 ounces. Big difference. So I think it's a combination of those things. But to your point, I absolutely am working on getting a white paper put together. Now it is tax season, so those CPAs are very busy right now, but I'm hopeful to get that soon.
Thanks, Robin, and thanks for the question, Al. Stephen, I see your hand up. Go ahead. I think you're muted still.
Yep, I think I'm not muted anymore.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Robin, you touched briefly about, and I guess I'm not understanding this, about how cannabis companies cannot fund projects that impact children. I guess I'm confused about that.
Yeah, there's some language in the law about that. And I don't know, I think it was put in there to protect children, but maybe wasn't necessary. And that's why we've had to step in a couple occasions and say, okay, give us a contribution and we'll turn around and do the project ourselves.
Okay. I guess is there better guidance on that, I guess is my question.
The CRA, I would actually kick that one back to the CRA.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian. I was just going to say I don't know that the CRA, regulates that part of that. We can maybe help point you to the part of the law. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I got you covered. So it really depends on what the specificity of what is being talked about. So for example, if you're looking at our rule set in 420.507 when it comes to advertising restrictions, as right in our rule set that says a marijuana product marketed or advertised under the Adult Use Act must be marketed or advertised as such. Sponsorships targeting individuals under 21 years of age are prohibited. So what typically happens is if a company or an attorney or let's say municipality is curious about a specific activity and what our interpretation is on enforcing that or what that could be, what we encourage is people reaching out to us and asking us specific questions. We get billboard questions all the time when it comes to advertising, sponsorships, things like that. So it is not something where we do proactively in which we require businesses to get them pre-approved with us. That would take an insurmountable amount of staffing and time in which to do that. However, we do have a customer service-based approach in which people have questions on how that could work or what a sponsorship could be or what a billboard could be and accomplish with our rule set. We are here to help out and provide those examples. And in fact, credit to our team too, we've increased some of our processes to make that more efficient and timely responses as well as consistency. So sir, anytime you have any specific questions on what that could possibly be, feel free to reach out to us and we can get back with you.
Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, Brian. Let's see, Connie, I think you're here with the city of Laingsburg, is that right? All right, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Connie Maxim Sparrow, City of Laingsburg. I recently stumbled upon, and David, I sent this to you, and I think I just want to share this with the my fellow municipalities so that they're aware.
Hey, Connie.
I stumbled on a social media post.
I was just curious. We're doing Q&As for Robin, and then we're going to let her go. Is this a question for Robin, or can we hold it till later?
No, my apology.
Oh, no worries. Let's get that one back once we let Robin go. Is that okay?
No, that's perfectly fine. I wasn't sure what we were doing. My bad.
Okay. Sorry if I didn't make it clear. I do want to get questions for Robin, see if we can get her out a little bit early, and we'll hold on for a Q&A with CRA after that. All right, cool. Catherine, you're up.
Hi, I'm an attorney in Southwest Michigan that represents several municipalities that have authorized or opted in for medical adult combination of both. And I just wanted to ask Robin or share with her that we represented LaGrange Township that was involved in a tax appeal where the taxes were appealed from an industrial to an ag classification. It was upheld by the Cass County Circuit Court, and that is now being used across the state as a reason for your industry to argue that we should not be taxing adult use marijuana growers and processors as industrial and instead as ag. And you're asking what might make municipalities start to go away from allowing this industry? This, okay? Because it is extremely aggressive. And, you know, we can go on and on about how it happened, why it happened, and what the impact is. But we've already known, we've been advised that this case from Cass County, which only has bearing in Cass County, has been brought forward into courts in 15 different locations across the state. So, you know, I think the municipalities feel like when we opted in, we did in good faith that this was an industrial land use. You know, the zoning districts are not the classifications for the assessing, and this has really affected the municipalities where this particular licensee is located. So, you know, for what it's worth, our firm has always advocated that if you opt in, that we're going to work together with industry. And this has really taken a hit on this township, this village, and the school district there. So if you could share that with your members, that some of the municipalities that have been longtime partners are feeling a little bit betrayed at this point.
Can I ask just a couple questions about that so I have a better understanding? So it was zoned industrial of the property. And
Yes.
then they wanted an agricultural exemption?
A tax classification.
Tax, okay.
They went to the board of review, which you have to do locally. They were denied. They appealed it to the district. They were denied. They instead came back to Cass County Circuit Court and got that court to make a determination that this was an agricultural use of land. So, for tax purposes. This is LaGrange Township, Village of Cassopolis, and HRP, okay? And this has had an enormous impact in terms of my clients across Southwest Michigan about wanting to partner with the industry, almost like a bait and switch. So, you know, as somebody who has been very open to the industry and has been, you know, 2022, go back and watch me 2 years ago, this is something that seriously, and we tried to work with this person, but by the time we got involved, it had already gone that way, and now it's being used in other places. So,
And can you tell me, like, what is the financial loss? Is it the financial losses to the county or to the...
to all taxing entities, that village, townships, schools, so change in classification, okay?
And do you know, like, what is the dollar amount lost?
I don't know the exact dollar.
Okay.
But I think it's also more than the dollars. It's the representation that was then changed and the aggressive nature of the litigation.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
That opportunity, I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Thank you.
You know, and I hear the other side of it you know, from our members that the tax liability, you know, is harmful to them. And this was the first that I've heard, you know, this scenario. So I do appreciate you coming forward and sharing with that with me. I do want to learn more about it.
Yeah, thanks for this summit. So I appreciate it.
For sure, and it's nice to see a couple of the faces that were on our municipality video that I showed you earlier are here in this meeting, and you know, speaking up. Al and Catherine, it's good to see you again, and thanks for everything in the past for that. I'll move over to Eric for your question now.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm from the city of Memphis in Macomb, St. Clair County. So recently, my question is about the local license, because what's happened is that our licenses were $10,000 per for the adult use, or I'm sorry, $5,000 per for the adult use and the recreational. So what's happened is that the businesses here, which we have two, have decided to give people at the counter a discount if they bought medical and they don't buy the medical license from the municipality anymore. Do you have any recommendations for what we should do, or are you going to do something about this? Because you know, it's costing us, you know, money right now.
Okay, so the concern is that they started as a medical facility and then got a recreational license, which would mean you would get $10,000, and then started dropping their medical licenses. So you're getting 5?
Actually, they both started as a combination at the same time. They both originally bought both licenses, but now this year neither one has bought the local medical use license.
Okay. So I think that, you know, as time has gone on, more and more patients have, you know, dropped their patient cards. So the patient population is dwindling significantly. And it doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of these businesses to invest in, you know, the medical side of the program if the clientele isn't there. But this is the first I've heard of this concern. So, you know, that would be something I know we're working on merging the acts right now. I would be happy to take that concern back to our work group and see if there's an option there to maybe adjust the fee that you're getting. I'm just spitballing there.
Well, that was my thought, was you know, that we could change how we charge for the licenses, or just combine them both into one and go back to what it was before with $10,000 per site. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I have a question about that while you're still on. So, you know, one of the obstacles with merging the acts is municipalities that are medical only, and then turning everything into recreational facilities, and then the patients essentially being able to purchase cannabis. Are there a lot of municipalities on here that would feel strongly that they would oppose, you know, recreational versus medical? I'm just curious.
If you're willing to give your opinion, Rachel, go ahead.
From a revenue standpoint, the city of Ann Arbor permits for marijuana facilities, whether it's provisioning center or retailer. So as people have been dropping their med, we've had no impact on our revenue, because we just do $5,000 for a shop, to use the colloquial term. We don't, this isn't the word I want, but the word I'm going to use, we don't care what what distinction your shop is. So if folks are going to be consolidating down to just rec, it doesn't change that they're dropping their med. So if the industry goes down to just one license type, it's not going to affect us at all. So that's our perspective on it.
Okay.
Thanks, Rachel. Stephen, do you have a comment on that?
Yes. And I'm from Newfield Township, on the west side of the state. So kind of the opposite from, seems, most of you folks. We do not have any retail sales in the township. All of our permits, and let me phrase this. We use the term permits as opposed to licenses, so that we can distinguish between us and you folks there at the CRA. I think a lot of times people get confused between what's a local issue, what's a statewide issue. So by terms matter, I guess I'd say, that by using the term permit, it differentiates between us and you folks. Number one. Number two, we do not at all, and we have no retail sales, so all our permits are either processing or grow. We're an agricultural community, very small. Anyways, we do not differentiate at all, and never have, as soon as we passed our ordinance, between medical and recreational. It's a permit. It's a Class C, it's a Class B, it's a Class A, it's a processing. And that keeps there from being, it gives the permit holder the flexibility to respond to market conditions, because we're seeing the same thing. Our grows are telling us that the wholesale prices have just gone through the floor, and there's very little demand for medical. So they can switch over to recreational this way, and that's how we're handling it.
Okay.
Thanks, Stephen. Eric, go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's great. So we're like a 1 square mile town here, and we have two facilities right now. So basically, you've taken away half of what we charge. So if we made it a permit instead of a license, does that mean that we could charge whatever we want?
No. No, I think that would need to be addressed in the statute. So I'm willing to take that conversation back.
Can I speak here real quick?
Who's that?
Yeah, I'm with Eric. I'm with Eric from Memphis.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
So really what it was when these folks presented their to get their permits, when they made their presentations to the city and everything like that, it was under the understanding, they were like, yeah, we're going to do medical and this and that. So us here at the city, at the municipality, we're like, okay, we're going over numbers and things like that, and we're like, okay, well, here's this, here's that extra $5,000 was really part of what we were considering, when we passed things, when we looked at their proposals and things like that when they applied. So now we're down to, we were looking at, getting $20,000 a year to $10,000 a year. And in our small budget with just 2 stores and 1 square mile, it's a big number, actually. It doesn't sound like much maybe to some of the bigger cities, but $10,000 in our small budget.
Do you have?
What's that?
You have 2 stores?
We have 2.
Stores?
Yeah, we have 2.
Can I ask again where you're from?
Memphis. On the northern Macomb and St. Clair County border.
Okay.
And we're just as when we started figuring out, when we were passing everything, we said, hey, this is what it's going to be. And then the first year for renewal, neither of the stores, they're like, well, we're not doing medical at all. And we're like, oh, well, there's $10,000 gone that we kind of expected, but I guess it's legal, but it was just a surprise.
And we realize that the medical product is different because it's stronger. So people are still interested in getting the medical stuff and just getting the discount so that they don't have to actually get the license at the store.
I don't think it is stronger anymore.
No, it's no different.
It could be. It depends on the product. Yeah.
Okay.
It really depends on the product. But yes, you're right, Robin. When it comes to edible packaging, not so much. But one of the big ones that we do here, Eric, is the tax break. You're not paying the excise tax at the counter as well. But
Yep.
To your point, there are some products that could be a little bit stronger. And again, shameless plug for us. If you want to know what the strength of the products are, feel free to go to our website, michigan.gov/CRA, and we have a bulletin about the specific THC values there.
Thanks, Brian. And thanks for the question so far. Matthew, did you want to respond to what Robin was asking, or do you have your own question?
Correct. Just circling back on the municipality point and medical, we've represented a few municipalities where the fact that medical was under consideration only or as a part of their permitting scheme is still a big factor for those communities. So it does come up depending on the location you're in. I think it is still important to certain folks in different parts of the state.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Robin, did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask while you had the floor?
No, I mean, always looking for more feedback. I do. So one of the things that we saw when we passed the recreational initiative, I think it's important to keep in mind that we only had so much space on those petitions. So we had to keep the language brief. And, you know, we've seen a lot of lawsuits during opt-ins. And the language that was used was like that you could develop a scoring system kind of thing. And I think that that has been interpreted to maybe mean we can't use lotteries, you know, to pick the local winners. And I guess my question is do the municipalities need that language clarified to help deter the number of lawsuits that are happening?
Anybody have some feedback for Robin on that? Go ahead, Catherine.
Hi, this is Catherine again. I'm sorry, I'm running out of steam here, but on my iPad. But yeah, the question of lawsuits is very, it turns a lot of people off. They're very afraid, especially the small municipalities that might go in for one or two, because as somebody said, you know, here, you know, if I have the adult use retailer or a micro business, then I get myself into the excise fund or the pot of money, which is unrestricted, whereas like licenses are fairly restricted. I was just thinking the other day, like, has anyone ever been challenged on what they spend their licensing fees on? Because I think people build up a war chest of licensing fees, and, you know, what is that supposed to be spent on? But in terms of the standards or the criteria for evaluating who's going to get the licenses, I think when that went through the MRTMA, the fact that the municipalities bear the risk of how they select and all of the litigation that's, you know, arose from that, it is off-putting to many, and they are not going to take the risk. Whereas over time, I have absolutely seen the public's reception to this industry shift, and maybe it's not so scary anymore, and maybe it's not so terrible, but we're not, if we're a small township in southwest rural Michigan that's interested and might go with one or two, we're not going to take the risk of having to pick winners and losers, and, you know, fight litigation.
So would the solution to that, do you think, be to clarify that municipalities can do a lottery?
Possibly, because right now, you know, there's the, you know, the challenges about what we can put in the standards, how we're supposed to evaluate them, whether the committees evaluate them or have to comply with the Open Meetings Act. I mean, everything brought to the table. So lottery, of course, would be the thing that would be helpful, but I'm not exactly sure how to best address this challenge for municipalities. But I have worked with different municipalities that got all the way to the point of adopting ordinances, and then they stop because the municipality got sued, and it's gone up to the Supreme Court. So they're stopping, and they're not willing to go there. So for whatever that's worth.
Okay. Well, that leads me, I guess, to another statement I guess I want to make. So as somebody who has an experience in campaigns and ballot initiatives, I have seen, you know, groups that are, you know, doing local ballot initiatives and just kind of seeing what they can get to opt in and not really working with the locals, and have been really disappointed in that. I think that it's really important that if you're going to do a local initiative, to build that relationship with the people in the community and include them in that. So if you're from a municipality that, had some investors come in and try to force, a ballot initiative on you and didn't work with any of the local community, I just want you to know that I don't support that action. So we envisioned that the locals would do it. Like what if the local community wants this, and they should have the right to do their own ballot initiative. We definitely did not envision, investor groups doing it, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Robin. Stephen, go ahead.
I find that kind of interesting because our issue has been quite the opposite. We've had 5 lawsuits over the last 2.5 years, and it's from a very small group of residents who did get a ballot initiative to try and repeal our ordinance. And we've won every time. When their ballot, and they tried recalling our board, they lost that significantly. Their ballot initiative fell by 2-to-1 margin, but it's been very expensive in defending the township against this very small group of very radical, let me just put it that way, folks. But to get away from any problem with lawsuits from applicants, it's basically, we did 2 things. We limited how many facilities we could have in the township by ordinance. We limited the number of permits available per class by ordinance, and by ordinance declared it's first come, first serve. So the first folks who are applying, assuming they meet the standards set forth in the ordinance and our zoning, that's it. It's non-discretionary. And by making it non-discretionary, it's very hard for someone to sue the municipality. The problem is when you have something that's discretionary, well, I like Brian, but I don't like David. That's a lawsuit. Absolutely. But when it's, okay, Rachel was the first one, she applied for 10 permits, she gets her 10 permits. She met the security requirements, screening requirements, and the setback requirements. It's a done deal. It's not discretionary. They can try and sue you, but they're going to lose.
Right.
I think that's the straightforward thing. Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it. Connie, do you have a question or a comment? You're muted still.
Yeah, no, sorry, I had to grab the mouse. It ran away. My apology. Again, Connie Maxim Sparrow, City of Lanesburg. City of Lanesburg also faced some challenges related to threats of litigation as it relates to a ballot initiative. We successfully were able to sit down with the business owners as well as the people that brought forward the petition and have some business-minded conversations about actual solutions that ensured the community was getting what it needed as well as the business. This has been going on for a very long time. The litigation that's happening locally at the municipal level, whether it be a social equity preferential decision that pitted one class of people against a different class of people, or it was, the various ways that municipalities were trying to opt in, but every time they turned around, you were running into very complex development of ordinances. I would often get frustrated that the Michigan Municipal League, who is there to assist you guys as well as the Michigan Township Association, have really been kind of hands off on this. One of the things that I think would be beneficial to the municipalities is if the municipalities started getting together, the planners and the people who are actually doing this good work, and having some conversations related to ways to avoid litigation, and be able to have better conversations. The municipalities, and I'll be the first one to admit, has been left out of the conversations quite regularly over the course of the last 7 or 8 years. And so I agree that it is a barrier to moving forward any other opt-in when you're looking around the landscape and all it is litigation. And so our very small municipality is not interested in opting into any other additional licenses. And I think that that is probably the temperament moving forward, as you know, we're already seeing a non-renewal of medical licenses, and other things like that. So municipalities that, and then this tax reclassification is interesting as well. I can understand why the licensees went after that. So I mean, I think that there is some work that needs to be done for the municipalities, maybe to find themselves a way to support each other and have some resources, but the litigation is a problem. That is definitely a big barrier.
Thanks, Connie. Tish.
Yes, there was someone touched base, I believe it was Catherine, that talked about a war chest of licensing fees. I have inquired we only have, we have 4 licenses. We did require in our ordinance that you have to have a medical prior to getting recreational. Kind of used it as a firewall, so to speak. If you're gonna, if you're committed to the community, then you're going to have a medical first and then the rec. So we just don't have some fly-by-night people coming in trying to just scoop up a license. But in regard to these licensing fees, they can only be used for certain things still, to my knowledge. Emergency, attorney fees. Is that going to change?
Are you saying that you think it should change?
Yes, because I've called some places that have a large amount and they say they just include it in their general fund and they've just been spending it on what they want to spend it on. And we have been just trying to hang on to that because we didn't want to get into a situation where at one time you'd have to pay back that, if you were using it in your general fund for whatever. But I know there are municipalities that do that.
Okay. So, yes, I see what you're saying. I think it said in the MMFLA that could only be used to recoup, cover your costs of administration, right? Administering the permits. So, okay, I'm taking a note of that. I don't know if it can be fixed or not, but I'm willing to have the conversation.
Thanks, Robin. Appreciate that. And thanks for the comments, everyone. A couple more minutes before we switch over to CRA questions. Jennifer, go ahead.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I don't know if Catherine is still on. She might be able to speak to this better than I can. But when you're talking about a permit or license fee, you need to make sure you are covering your cost, or you could get, I believe, into a bolt issue. There was a previous case, City of Lansing versus Bolt, that establishes the difference between a tax and a fee. Again, this is not legal advice, but that is something you definitely need to talk to your legal representation, your municipal attorney about.
So, Catherine, since you're an attorney, I'll just ask you, if they took that out of statute and said you could use it for other things, would that be legal or would that be considered a tax?
Well, it's in this, I think it's in both MRTMA and the MMFLA that the $5,000 up to $5,000 a year is for the cost of administering the ordinance. So or the applications. It just as I think somebody said, we advise our clients to, show how that's being spent. If it's for employing, the marijuana administrator, if it's for my legal fees, that kind of stuff. So there are some municipalities that have like $700,000 laying in an account and they can't spend it because they can't use it to offset costs of administration. So I think that's not clear. I think it would be great if we could. There is a case there's a builders association case versus Troy, which goes into the idea that permit fees should only be for the cost, covering the cost of administration, right?
Mhm.
So that was the issue about the volt. So it's in the MRTMA and MMFLA. I'm pretty sure that 5,000, up to 5,000. That's why some people are changing. You know, if you're getting medical and adult use, we're only charging you 5,000, or we're not charging as much for renewal because you have to tie the cost of that administration fee to the cost of processing the application, or, you know, enforcement. So I think that is unclear. I think that's a very good point, that I don't think it should be going into the general fund. And I've always wondered, you know, as an aside, when I drive to work in the morning freaking out, is anyone ever going to challenge one of my municipalities what they're spending that money on? Because I do think the industry could challenge. So, for what that's worth.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Robin. Anything else that you'd like? I'd like to, at some, you know, here in the next minute or so, kind of transition from just questions for you to questions for the CRA as well. Love you to stick around if you know.
Sure.
Is that okay?
I'll just wrap up by, you know, thanking the agency for hosting these municipal summits. You know, I know that for years the municipalities were like, we need more information from the state, and so, you know, that you guys took the initiative to do this and be a resource. I really appreciate that, and appreciate all of you for, you know, educating me about some of your issues, and I've learned so much on just this short call, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin, and we appreciate the relationship we have with you as well, getting to hear from the industry what's important to you and how we can work together, and really appreciate your open lines of communication and dialogue with us and with the municipalities here today.
Great.
So let's open it up to any questions that we have for the CRA. I know we've got one that from earlier in the chat. It said, do you foresee any changes in the way the CRA shares information with local municipalities? It is a continuous struggle, especially when we're supposed to work together to monitor compliance. I'll hand that over to you, Brian, to start.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you very much. And this is a great example of why it's so important for us to get together and talk. It's not that we're trying to be obstructionists. It really depends on what information that you're seeking. And there's a reason for that, and that would be statutes. There are specific restrictions on what information that we can share. For example, there are certain types of information, like licensing application information, that is restricted from FOIA. The only way that we can hand that information out, besides to our partners at the state police, which is in accordance with the statute, including Bureau of Fire Services that help us regulate, requires a subpoena or a search warrant. What I recommend, and I'll pass this over to Alyssa, who's our legal manager, and we can share how we share certain types of information when it comes to, let's say, disciplinary matters, and then we'll toss it to Jennifer Piggott when it comes to licensing issues. If there is some specific information that you need, please reach out to us, and we will work with you on whether A, we can share it, or how we can share it through legal processes in which we can, the way the statutes are written. So I'll turn it over to Alyssa. Alyssa, if you could talk about how we share information regarding disciplinary process, I would appreciate that. But again, if you have a specific question of information that you would like, please go to our website, get all of our email addresses, get all of our phone numbers, contact us, and we'll walk you through of how and what we can share. Otherwise, we're very transparent in everything else that we have the ability to share things that are not restricted in the statute. So, Alyssa, go ahead if you don't mind.
Sure. Thanks, Brian. My name is Alyssa Grissom. I'm the legal manager here at the CRA. So my team handles the discipline of licenses once an investigation has been completed. And there are a few different ways that we are able to share information, and we do so publicly and on a regular basis. We post formal complaints. So if there's a formal complaint against a licensee that's been filed and sent to that licensee, it's then posted on our Acela Citizens Access. So you'll want to be sure to check that. We also post our consent orders and our final orders. So if a licensee agrees to settle any potential discipline that they had against them with terms, so maybe that could be a suspension, it could be a fine, it could be other terms that they need to comply with, That information will also be posted on that Acela Citizens Access, as well as any final orders. And really the only difference between those two, the consent order and the final order, is one is after a hearing and one is really a settlement document. But it's the same thing. It will include those terms. So if you're curious as to how some discipline was resolved, you'll be able to see that as well. If for some reason a formal complaint is withdrawn and the discipline is no longer, then you'll be able to see that on there also. A couple other things I wanted to point out is that we also notify municipalities when a licensee is suspended. So whether that's a summary suspension, which is immediate and usually due to a public health and safety concern, or whether they agree to a suspension or it's imposed against them in that consent order or final order, we will send out a notification letter to the municipality where that licensee resides to let you guys know that and to let you know where you can get more information if you need updates on that case as well. The other thing I just wanted to mention briefly is that I think a couple summits ago, I also did a brief presentation on the disciplinary process. I also did a education session last November that talks about the disciplinary process. Those are both found on our website, so I encourage you to view those as well if you just have more questions about what that process looks like and how and when you'll be able to obtain information.
Thanks, Alyssa. Jennifer, did you want to add a little bit to that?
Certainly. So less from the compliance aspect, but just for touch points with the municipality, we do, upon making a licensing determination, send a letter to the municipality of record on that specific license. So, and that's very simple and straightforward when it's an approval. However, when there is a denial or a non-renewal, we do have to allow the hearing rights for the applicant or licensee to be exhausted before we then make that communication. So there could be some time delay between when the municipality could expect to receive that. What those notifications are titled, when you should receive them for both medical or adult use, those are all listed in the touch points that David referenced in the municipal guide. So I would refer you back to that resource for those. Additionally, to piggyback off what Alyssa said on some of those status changes, such as closing a license, suspending a license, that's all real-time updates that you can view on Acela. So if you are keeping tabs on a licensee on Verify a License, our actions that occur to suspend, close, renew, those are all real-time and current. So I would also direct you to that.
Thanks, Jennifer.
And again, any specific information that you're looking for, that you're unknown of where it is or how to get it or what you can get it in accordance with the statutes, please reach out to us. I dropped in the chat here how to contact us and all the different email addresses and phone numbers which we have.
Thanks, Brian. Jennifer, real quick before you go off camera, one question came in about annual financial statements for cannabis businesses. Are they available to the public?
So that is not information that is available to the public. That's provided to the CRA at the time in which their deadline to file is upon a licensee. The medical, so MMFLA specifically in the statute, does have a provision that says that they are required to submit that not only to the CRA, but to the municipality. So I would encourage, if you have medical licensees, that you are, following up with your licensee at the local level to ensure that you are getting a copy as the statute allows you. Adult use, however, the requirements for the AFS are in rule, and that there is no similar provision.
Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate that. We've had quite a few questions go up in chat, so let's see if we can knock a couple of these off, and then we'll move over to you, John. The first one from our team: can one company have an interest in another company? I know that there are specific companies that you can't do that across the different license types, but Alyssa or Jennifer, I guess Derek, maybe, who is somebody who would like to kind of get a little more specific on that one?
Certainly. So that's sort of a loaded question. I would have, I think, a lot of follow-up questions to ask to answer that in a timely fashion. So I think that one might be a good one to reduce to writing and give me some details if possible. But generally speaking, unless there is a prohibition such as, it's an excluded license type between a lab and a grower, or for adult use, it would put you having too much interest in, more than 5 Class C grows or more than 1 micro business. Those are right off the gate exclusions. But I would say I would have to get into the nitty gritty of the application, the individuals involved, but there isn't an express prohibition that it's 1 license and 1 license only.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. John, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, I was speaking to a colleague here in Southeast Michigan. Our community, City of Plymouth, we currently do not we have proactively opted out of recreational, and we did not opt into medical. So what we have suspected has happened in our community at one point, and a couple other communities that we've spoke to, is someone we believe is licensed to either be a provisioning center or a retail location, is setting up grow operations that may not necessarily be licensed. Is that a CRA issue? Is that a state police issue? Local police have somewhat, and these are based on my conversation, said, if we follow this up, it's a ton of time, effort, and energy, and it's going, most likely could get dismissed or, brokered down. What's the best way for us to deal with that?
Got you covered, and thank you for that information. I'll drop an email address in here shortly for our enforcement division. If you want to contact us and send us that information, we coordinate with Michigan State Police Marijuana and Tobacco Investigation Section. That is their primary, one of their primary responsibilities. If you have a situation in which you believe there's licensed entities doing illicit behavior in your municipality, please let us know. We can coordinate with the proper law enforcement sources and then look at things on our end too.
Okay, thank you. That's
You
perfect.
got it.
Appreciate
Sending you an email address right now.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Connie, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. It's me again. I recently stumbled upon online, and I guess I sent it off to the CRA because I think it's important that they're aware, but I also think it's important for the municipalities to be aware, other ones across the state. I stumbled on a lovely liquor store social media post of a variety of nationally produced cans of beverages that were being sold in liquor stores that have Delta 8 and or Delta 9 in them. I was quite shocked to see this. They were offering it up and advertising as please come in and take a sample of this new beverage that came from our regional distributor. And so I took it upon myself to direct message said liquor store and ask them or let them know that I really think that they should probably pull that off their shelves just as a heads up, that they could get in trouble and it could violate their liquor license. But nonetheless, it appears that national Delta 8 and Delta 9 alcohol alternative canning companies are now sending down lots of Delta 8 and Delta 9 samples in a variety of flavors and brands down to liquor distributors who then are passing them on to liquor stores and touting it as the Farm Bill allows that. Obviously it doesn't, and I think it was October of 2021, the CRA actually outlawed Delta 8 and Delta 9 in the state of Michigan, and so now we have Delta 8 and Delta 9 coming through the alcohol and liquor supply chain. So I did notify the CRA of that because it's a serious concern, as I got some feedback from some others that let me know about it, but I'm curious as to how we are going to prevent this Delta 8, Delta 9 issue from moving forward on this liquor side, but then also if the municipalities were even aware that Delta 8 and Delta 9 are banned in the state of Michigan, and so if somebody is selling that in a gas station or a smoke shop or now apparently a liquor store, that you are not able to do that.
Thanks, Connie. Appreciate that. And go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. And we appreciate you raising that concern to us, Connie. You know, that's information that we'll work with our law enforcement partners and partners at Liquor Control. You know, I think there's an opportunity there for sharing information from perhaps the Liquor Control side as well. And what Connie's referring to is if it is a Delta 8, Delta 9 product, it needs to be regulated by us. Anybody that is selling that at a gas station, any retail that doesn't have a license is something that is a law enforcement matter. Again, you can use the same email address, CRA-enforcement@michigan.gov, if you have any questions, and we can refer that information to those that can help us in investigation.
Thanks, Brian. Next up, Rachel, go ahead.
Hi, so as we're heading into budget cycling, we were wondering if there's a sense of where the excise tax distribution will be this year as opposed to previous years. And I know this is a big ask with the changing cost of bud and the number of municipalities opting in, but just is there any sense so we can start looking at some budget estimates, please and thank you.
Yeah, we get this question every year, especially right around this time, and we'll just say the same thing that we say year after year, which is that those numbers are completely out of our control. That's a treasury thing. We do work with them when it comes time. I think in March usually we put out the press release with those numbers. You know, I think like you can't hold me to this, but you know, the $50,000 mark that it's been around lately seems reasonable, but by no means is that set in stone. You know, there's been a lot more retailers brought in, but sales have also gone up. So, you know, the math will, you know, be math eventually, and we will let you know. But, you know, unfortunately, we can't really give out any clues or hints on that just because we don't have the information, and that will come from Treasury. So I do appreciate the question, though. It's one that makes a lot of sense for municipalities to need for their budgeting purposes. So sorry we couldn't be more helpful to you.
Worth the ask.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yep.
We do have, let's see here, some questions that are in our chat. If anybody from the team here can jump in on some of these. I know a couple of these we've pretty much answered, like for instance, the compassion clubs reach out to us, you know, via email, CRA-enforcement at michigan.gov. Maybe a question for enforcement here from Matthew. You know, how can a municipality support an investigation or disciplinary procedure? Are formal complaints shared with the municipality when it's received by the CRA?
Yeah, I'll jump in on part of that, and I can turn it over to Mandy for the rest of, let's say, the joint cooperation process. You know, as a regulatory body, we have regulatory authority over the licensed businesses, but there is times in which we receive information which it is pure illicit behavior that's outside the regulated environment. It's also helpful to know those tips and information just in case there may be, and we want to make sure there isn't a licensed business that is operating within both realms. But at the end of the day, when it comes to unlicensed activity, it is a law enforcement issue. Now, specifically what's happening in Genesee County, we've been made aware of that. That instance is best passed to Michigan State Police and as well as conversations with the local prosecutor there. However, like David said, we'll always take tips, and if it's something that's outside of our regulated environment, we can definitely pass that to Michigan State Police. And then, Mandy, I don't know if you have any thoughts on municipalities asking in cooperations and investigations, but perhaps there's a way there to get more specific information.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'm Mandy Cooley, the Enforcement Division Director here at the CRA. And I would just echo what Brian mentioned about our unlicensed facilities. But when we have an investigation with a licensed facility within your municipality, we certainly encourage any open lines of communication between both parties. We try to have, as best as we can, updated contact information on our website, but you can always reach out directly to either our customer service or enforcement mailbox, which is posted on the website, to gain access to your local assigned regulation officer or regulation agent that may be directly involved with the licensee within your municipality if you have any concerns or questions. I would say that's probably our number one ask, would just be open lines of communication there. But certainly open to any other suggestions if you have any questions or concerns from your end, what we can do better on helping to coordinate together. The second part of that question, the formal complaint shared with the municipality when it's received by the CRA, that might be a better question for Alyssa or Brian. But I know we do post a lot of information on our website.
You got it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So let me break it down this way. So if it's an open investigation, in other words, it is something that is still being investigated and not turned into a formal complaint yet, we can't necessarily confirm or deny those. And that is just basic investigation 101. We are looking into things and investigating. And we have several open investigations open at one time with our staff. When it turns into a formal complaint, however, when it is a closed investigation and it is a formal complaint from this agency, Alyssa, do you mind taking us to how that process works? And again, perfect segue to the video of what you have.
Sure, absolutely. So formal complaints are issued every day, and when a formal complaint is issued, what that means is that it's been approved and signed by me and mailed out by our team. Obviously, we want to be able to notify. The purpose of mailing that formal complaint is to notify the licensee that this discipline is now pending against them, and then they're on the clock to make a decision for how they want to resolve that discipline. We upload copies of formal complaints to that Verify License Acela Citizens Access system twice a month, around the 15th, obviously depending on when the 15th is, if it's a business day or not, and then at the end of the month as well. So those 2 times, anything that's been issued in the in-between times, those get posted at that time, and then nothing will be posted else on that case, on the Acela Citizens Access, until the case is either withdrawn or resolved. And that would be that consent order or after hearing a final order. And that could take a month. It could take 6 months if something is going to hearing. So it just really depends on that. Of course, if you have questions about whether a case is still pending, we can't necessarily give you some specific information, but we can let you know if a case is resolved and we're just, in the process of posting something, or whether or not the discipline is still pending. And again, you can review the CRA education session regarding disciplinary process, as well as, I believe, the materials from I think it was the second municipality where I did that presentation. David, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's available as well.
Yep, thanks, Alyssa. I did just drop in the chat the education session you referred to from last November. It's a good one to take a look at for those here. We are over our time, but we'll close it up here with you, Cindy. If there's anybody that did not get their question answered, please email us. We'll be sure to get back to you on those. But let's close it up with you, Cindy. What do you got?
Yeah, hi. I have a question, or maybe even a statement for some of the municipalities in cities and villages. I believe the CRA has a rule set where the establishments have to make known to the CRA when there's an issue the municipalities have or find a violation, so they have to report that to you guys. My suggestion for municipalities and local governments to also put that in the ordinance on the other end of the spectrum, where if they're under investigation or something's raised by the CRA, that they too have to notify the township, the burden of proof or the burden of their reporting to us needs to be done as well. So that's a suggestion just to put into the ordinances so for our behalf at the local aspect of things, that we're knowing what's going on in real time as well. Just putting that out there for other people to municipalities be made aware when CRAs looking at issues with marijuana establishments. It's a better way for us to know too in real time what's going on, is to make that a rule in your own ordinance to be made aware of that. But thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Al, did you have you want to discuss that real quick, or?
No, I actually have one quick question. Hopefully there is time, otherwise feel free to cut me off. Is Robin still here? Maybe it's kind of like a 2-part question. It is for the CRA, but also hoping that Robin can also, okay, so I'll do it quick. So these discussions with municipalities are very important, and I think that one of the things that do resonate a lot is a lot of issues at community level, and specifically around the opt-in processes elsewhere in the state. But also looking at, the industry looked at their toolbox, like establishing a business somewhere in Michigan, and they realized that they don't necessarily necessitate as many community elements in order to get a business running where they want. But at the same time, I think we all know in this chat that cannabis is not a regular type of business use. Cannabis is something that always brings conversation, brings controversy, it's thought-provoking, and has municipalities kind of deciding what to do with that. So my question to the CRA is, within your administrative process, is there a consideration of adding items related to community engagement to your application framework in order to at least ensure that there's been a minimum effort to engage with the residents that are going to receive that cannabis business? And now kind of steering off towards Robin, as she represents the MCMA, are there discussions from your clients about considering amping up the community engagement element in order to maximize the partnerships between the industry and their stakeholders in the communities that are being looked at for business opportunities?
Certainly. So I can tell you that our association certainly has done the work to engage with communities, per my example of the Detroit Homegrown Fund, working with our members in Detroit to essentially fund their entire educational program there and give out business grants to legacy applicants. But I think that each municipality, we would be happy to kind of serve as a conduit. If we have members in your municipality, happy to help foster that relationship and see what the community's needs are, see which of our members might be willing to contribute to something. That's something that we are happy to participate in. I think that it is important to keep in mind that there are always going to be some business owners that don't care. And then there will be others that do. And so it's important, to know that as the state's trade association, we're not going to convince every single business owner, in the state to be responsible and contribute back to their community. But we are more than happy to work with you to help identify the people in your community that do care, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Robin. And from the CRA perspective, just wanted to, give a brief answer, and then we'll close up shop here. But, we do have a requirement for licenses for those who become licensed to submit their social equity plan to the CRA. So that is a requirement. And then those who are interested, and they may voluntarily put them up on the website in our All-Star program. That gets you the bronze level for the All-Star program if they're interested in doing that. So, we're doing the best as we can. We, of course, have to follow the statutes and the laws and the administrative rules, and some of that, is incorporated into how folks are licensed. But, as far as, helping out, kind of like Robin said, doing the best we can to help encourage communication and working with communities. We were, super happy to help out with the All-Star program, getting that information out there, and then also with this social equity grant program, making that part of the ways some of these funds can be spent is with community investment too. So I know Brian is he's kind of leading the way here with our agency and making sure that we, follow through with all of these things when it comes to community engagement with this, stakeholders and municipalities. He's, continued to have these meetings on a quarterly or so basis. And so I think, I can speak for all of us at the agency. It's been very valuable time for us to spend with you today. We might need to push it to 2 hours again. We had it for 2 hours for the first couple and didn't use all the time, but I feel like maybe we might need to do that again next time and possibly move it back to Zoom as well. We'll see. But thanks everybody for your time today. Robin, I see you're unmuted.
David,
Did you
I
want to
just
say
want to,
something?
yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
just want to
Robin.
ask him to please follow up with me and email info@micia.org.
Okay.
Would really like to work with him on that issue in his community.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. And everyone, I wish we had a little more time. Some of us are late for our next meetings, but we really do appreciate everybody joining us today. Appreciate the conversation. Look out for emails soon when the next one will be. Reach out anytime you need, though, and have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thanks.